So more and more of the Epstein files are being released. I think it's around 9% of all the information they had. And obviously there's a lot of photography. Now I'm very interested in this, given my background as a professional photographer for over 20 years. And what I've been doing is going through the DOJ archive, but using the suffix .jpeg, .jpg, and that way getting straight to a lot of the images. Now obviously a lot of the photographs I found I can't share. But one thing that really kind of blew my mind that is really terrible and very much to do with our kind of influencer content hustle culture, a lot of fake imagery going around, okay? And it's crazy. And some of these fake images now have been seen millions and millions of times. Now, the images in question is this one. So this image, I think it went out on Twitter, and then people started sharing it on Pinterest. It started going everywhere, and everyone's like saying, oh, look, it's a kid's leg. It's a kid's leg, everyone. There's like some guy on TikTok now with millions of views.
But if you look closely, it really looks like a baby's leg.
And no, it's not. It's literally, it's this. It's some like conceptual art picture by the guy. I mean, even the guy's name, Harold Seiwert, that's him. It is so easy to discredit this image. You literally just had to Google that guy's name, and he's like a conceptual artist, right? So the real problem now is that we know now that this is just some weird artwork from 2003, but the people who've shared it on social media obviously are getting loads of eyes, loads of attention, loads of clicks, and loads of advertising revenue from people commenting on it still. And there's like thousands of comments on these posts saying, hey, this is fake, this is fake. And you know what? These kind of influencers, these content creators, they're just keeping it up. And that's something you've got to really watch out for when you're checking out these images coming out of the Epstein dump, because there's no excuse. You can go directly to the DOJ website and find them. I was going to go through some ones I found that are real. So of course there's lots of images like this. So it's Epstein in a room with his, I forget who referred to it as his harem, his harem. I think it might have been Richard Branson even in an email, which is pretty wild. So obviously surrounding himself with these young girls. And one thing that drew my eye was just this weird Cheshire cat grin in the top corner. I think on my previous video about portraits of Epstein, someone talked about his mouth. He has like a very Joker style mouth, and then there's this weird Cheshire cat grin. What we know about young girls and the writing on the foot, and in the background there's the book Lolita, which obviously has connotations to do with, that kind of thing. This one really struck me because I immediately thought, well, I know why they've got this in evidence or why this is relevant. And funnily enough, it was corroborated by an interview on the BBC a few days ago where one of Epstein's victims was saying, yes, I went to the island. Yes, they said, oh, you've got to give Jeffrey a massage now. And she said, well, I don't know how to give a massage. And then boom, there's this educational massage for dummies books, which takes on a whole new, way more sinister meaning. Now, lots of things coming out, people freaking out, photos of him with everyone, this, that, and the other. It's kind of what they did. And the fact is that, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Here's a photograph of Epstein with Steve Bannon, like kind of far-right Supremo guy. And at the same time, here he is on a plane with Noam Chomsky, like, darling of the super liberal intellectual left. It's just, but then there's photos of him, there's Bill and there's, all these people, and there's bloody Mick Jagger, okay? So the point of all these photos is they were moving in very high levels of society. So this is a photograph of Ghislaine Maxwell, but the guy she's next to is called Jean-Luc Brunel. And he also ran a modelling agency that was kind of doing the same kind of stuff Epstein was doing, like moving people around, if you know what I mean. And a few years after Epstein did himself, this guy was arrested and again in prison did himself too. That again is that Jean-Luc Brunel guy who went a similar path to Epstein in all ways, and down giving a cuddle is the director of Rush Hour, Brett Ratner. And then here's Brett Ratner with Epstein. Now, Brett Ratner's now been interviewed about this, and he's saying, no, the person in the photograph is my fiancé, right? But also, interestingly, Brett Ratner is the director of the new Melania film. There are a whole bunch of photos like this that I just found really sinister, because we know all this horrible stuff is going on, but at the same time, just having a great time. Just having lovely times and fooling around and doing kissy face to the camera, doing little mud packs on the face, pulling silly faces, right? It's just sort of really hard to sort of join these dots of people who are doing what they're doing at the same time, just they look like they're having the time of their lives. But it's this photograph when I was like, that is so sinister. I'm getting like the old crone in The Shining. Is it in room 237 kind of vibes? It's so disturbing the way the flash has illuminated his eyes, his expression. And, you know, that's the thing with all of this is the victims. Now, a lot of images have been released and obviously redacted, but, you know, 4 girls, or is it 3 girls, 4 girls here, and then slowly in the states of undress. But also the DOJ let a lot of these photos out, not redacting the victims' faces. So the whole thing has been, you know, a complete nightmare. And there it is. So again, this photo's in the files as well. And if you look at the sort of age of Jeffrey Epstein and that, he looks a lot younger. So this kind of thing, you know, this kind of documentation has been going on a long time. So obviously, if you're going to go look at the DOJ files yourself, type in .jpg, or you can start looking up the types of camera. So you could type DSC and sort of common suffixes for photography file types. But there you go.